Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Purpose Up podcast. I'm your host, Ben Stein, and today I am very excited to have with me Erik Salzenstein. Welcome, Erik.
Ben, what's going on, brother? I appreciate you having me on, man. Excited to be jamming out with everybody.
Yes, I'm excited to have you and to dig into it. So I need to adjust my opening question. I talk about what's your answer to what people ask you at a cocktail party about what do you do. But maybe I should start saying, if you're at a Zoom get together and somebody asks you, what do you do? How do you answer that question?
Such a good question. It's interesting. I had a little one-off offer that I was helping coaches and speakers with when it comes to networking and this is such a opportunity. When people ask this question, what do you do? For all the listeners out here, this is such an opportunity for you to shine. If you choose to. And if you think about it in a small circle, and you're in a small circle with 5 people, you're at a networking, a mastermind, whatever it is, you're at a cocktail party, and everybody's kind of going around saying what they do. By the end of it, it's all kind of a blur. And now you have to, unless somebody struck a chord, hit on an emotion, something that really made them stand out, chances are 3 out of those 5, you've kind of forgot what they're up to in the world. And there's only 2 that you really, connected with. So for me, it's really sharing a bit of your story. And so what I like to say is when someone says, what do you do? I say, yeah, I appreciate you asking. Is it cool if I give you some context before are you up for a quick story before I just share that? And they're always like, yeah, absolutely. What do you got? I just asked you what you do and now you want to tell me a story. And so this is an opportunity for you to really dive into not just what you do, but why you do it. It's connecting the why and to the what. And so for me, I was in prison for 4 years and was able to completely transform my life in there, really hone into who I am and who I want to be. And since getting out, I've been able to develop a speaking and create a speaking and coaching business where I'm impacting lives, sharing my story from prison to purpose, and creating a brand from it. And what started in one coaching business has now transformed to helping other coaches create businesses. And so I'm just super passionate about bridging a gap for new coaches and inspiring and showing them how step by step they can take their idea, their experiences, like mine was going to prison, and actually leverage them and create a functioning, successful, and profitable business from them. And speaking is another facet of that, which I'm super pumped about and have a lot of fun doing as well. So.
All right. I love it. And that I want to just highlight that I've never heard someone approach the question like that and pose it as such an opportunity. But yeah, us as humans are geared towards stories. So if you can give somebody something special in that moment, you can really make an impact on them in a way that just saying, I'm a coach who coaches coaches.
Right. Yeah. Who's forgetting me if I tell them I went to prison for 4 years out of the gate? Nobody is free. I have everybody's attention at that point. And, you weave it in and you can kind of go a little deeper if you want and go deeper in the story. That's up to you. And kind of the function that you're in, like the time that you have to go and all that stuff. Right. But it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you to stand out if you choose to use it as so. So, yeah.
Beautiful. So let's take a time machine. Where's the best place to flash back to when you think about important points in your personal story, either, prior to prison or leading up to that, you think is important backstory?
Yeah, man, there's a lot of ways we can take this. I think for me, one of the big things, and it shows up today, is that entrepreneurial spirit. It's being in 6th grade, selling candy and CDs, to my classmates. And I grew up in a Catholic household. I went to a private Catholic school from grade school to 7th grade, and was big into sports, played a bunch of different sports. And my mom, she taught me God. My dad, he taught me sports. Like that was the breakdown. That was our family dynamics. And 6th grade, I'm in middle school, and I just picked up on, making some money and providing value from my classmates. I was getting my mom to take me to the Costco or whatever and buy the candy in bulk and then turn around and sell them and make a little cash there. And then I had like a whole CD catalog that if you got the ones that I already had burnt, that they're $5. If you wanted a new mix CD that I hadn't done yet, that was $7. They were color coded and like, I wasn't messing around, man. And that was back with LimeWire and Kazaa. I don't know if you remember those names. Yeah. Like burning this. Yeah. So it definitely that plays a big role in my story. And, you fast forward from 6th grade to 9th grade going into high school. Now I'm in a public school. Selling candy and CDs really isn't the cool thing to do anymore, right? Like your rep it's just not, you can't be
Stakes are a little higher now.
Stakes are higher. So at this point, I had already been dabbling and smoking a little weed and just kind of trying things out, experimenting and really wanting to fit in and wanting to be accepted and wanting to be cool. And at this point, my decision and my thinking process, I think, was a mix of two things. It was one is that entrepreneurial spirit. I saw an opportunity, but then it was also that desire, that base desire of wanting to be needed by my peers and
right.
wanting to be wanted and accepted by my peers, right? And so you mix those two together and it was like a no-brainer. Well, I'm just going to start selling this stuff. So I became if we're going to smoke it, we're going to have to go drive to wherever to get it. Let me be the one to have it. And everybody just come to me. And so it started, I guess you can say, innocent and really wasn't, if we can say drug dealing is innocent, I don't know, but it started as not much of a thought and it turned into something that I had no idea. And I grew. And as I got older and went up to sophomore and junior and senior year, I started selling to other schools. I had people below me selling for me. And I basically like created this entire thing. And it just turned in and took a life of its own. And naturally we keep going, if you want me to, down how I ended up where I was.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you pointing out like that need for being wanted, being loved, and the significance that it gave you, like it meets those basic human needs, right? So of course you're going to kind of like flourish under that, whether it's legal or not. And it's funny, that's when I started smoking pot and drinking, like around that age. So I know what it's like when you start early too. It just becomes a thing that becomes normalized.
Yeah.
I think, I've always been like risk averse. So, I always tried to control my risk. But yeah, so let's talk about it. I mean, it becomes normalized for you. You create what sounds like a little empire, and where does that take you?
Yeah. So my parents made like one last ditch effort to, I had already been getting in trouble. I had already gotten arrested. It was at one point, as crazy as it sounds, my poor parents I tried to convince them that what I was doing was okay, that I'm an entrepreneur, that, hey, I'm already smoking it. You guys know I smoke it. Why not just sell it? As long as I have under this amount on my person, if I get arrested, it's just a misdemeanor. It's not the end of the world. Like I was justifying, I was rationalizing, I was doing all the things to make it seem like this was an okay option to take. And so they made one last ditch effort before I hit 18, went out to rehab in Louisiana. Then went to Denver, moved to Denver with my older brother, who comes back really heavy in my story. He's played a huge role in my development. Move out to Denver with him. And within a few months, I literally started selling weed again. Like, don't know why. I had 2 great jobs. I think it was just, I was such in this rebellious, phase of my life. And then the appeal of the fast money and everything it was just there. So I went right back to it, and he ended up catching on, and he said, hey, you're either going back to rehab or you're going back to Florida. And so I said, all right, I'm going back to Florida. So I left Denver, went back to Orlando. And when I came back, I basically picked up right where I left off. The big difference is at this time, which was 2009, early 2000 or late 2008, early 2009, we had a pill epidemic that was sweeping through Florida. This has made an impact in not just Florida, but man, states all over. But the pill mills is what we had. It was the opiate and painkillers and these doctors who were basically opening their clinics to where we could go in and with a simple MRI, with the slightest little herniated disc, whatever it was, you can walk out with 180 high level painkillers, muscle relaxers, some anxiety medicine. I mean, it's literally like a little bag of just
goodies.
And goodies, disaster. And there was so many doctors who got arrested for prescribing patients who had no business getting those types of meds. This was a huge thing. There's been documentaries made on it for anybody who isn't aware of this stuff. And so I got wrapped up in this. I had no idea what they were. A peer that I sold weed to all through high school, she approached me and said, hey, my mom got this thing going on and she needs some help with somebody she doesn't want to use her insurance. And she needs some help with getting these things, getting the pills. And so I basically, without knowing what they were, I looked at how much could be made, and it was like jaw dropping. And so I said, okay, I'm in. And so I started, and basically I was taking people, it started with one and it turned into multiple, but taking people what was called doctor shopping. And taking them to and it was just this ring of getting these things and selling them. And eventually I started using them and I became just heavily addicted. I mean, these things ran my life. My life was ran around two things. Every day, woke up, it was by getting high and my phone ringing. Like those were the two things that just ran my life. And it was this vicious cycle of addiction and greed, and one hand washed the other. And basically it all came crashing down 2000 and late 2012. And I was arrested in what was labeled as a drug deal gone bad. It was a robbery against another drug dealer. And I was facing life in prison for this charge. It was armed robbery. And so here I am, 22 years old, facing life in prison. And from, 2009 to 2012, when I was involved in this, my life had become just a mess. No direction, no vision, no goals, no aspirations of anything fruitful. It was addiction and greed, and it was selfish living. It was just, man, it was crazy. And finally now, you talk about your back being against the wall.
Right. I
remember being in that courtroom, looking up at the judge, thinking like, this is it, man. I'm done for. I didn't know how much time I was going to get. We're going back and forth. We're trying to work out a plea. And I just remember being so scared and just thinking like, I did it, man. I went too far. And now I'm going to lose my freedom for like minimum, like 15 years.
Right.
And that's where, everything came crashing down.
That's crazy. It's crazy. I'm going to take like a slight detour just because of the time and history that we're in. And I'm sure you've thought about this, but I'm thinking about, you got a plea deal of 4 years, right?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think if like the same person in your shoes, if he or she was black, what would have happened?
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. I've spoken openly about this with my black friends, with this is a very, there's not too many times, unless, and the one thing I had going for me was this was the first time I had caught any felony charges. I had prior misdemeanors, but I had no previous felonies. So this was the first time that I had caught serious charges. So I did qualify for what was called the downward departure. That was
funny that you call it like you caught a cold, but
yeah, it's true. Yeah, no, but I guess, that's just slang, I guess. Right. But, we realistically, my attorney, because the state prosecutor was not working with us. The original state prosecutor on the case was not working with us. We were thinking minimum 10 years. What ended up happening was she quit. She gets married to some doctor. She quits. Her entire docket gets dispersed to different attorneys. The new attorney that picked up my case was a public defender with my private attorney when he was just starting out, when he was a public defender. Yeah. So he comes in one day, I'm in county jail. He comes in and says, Eric, I got good news and bad news. And I said, what's up? And he's like, all right, well, bad news is, and we already know you're going away. Good news is we just got a huge break in the case and I can probably get you below 5 years. And the minimum amount of time you can get on this charge, if you're found guilty, the state minimum is 3 years. So we're shooting for the minimum. The guy says, look, I can't give your guy the minimum. This is, but we'll give him a year over the minimum. So I got 4 years. But going back to your question, man, it's definitely, if you don't have influence. So if you're coming from a poor area, you're a black dude, poor area, you don't have a private attorney, you have a public defender you're just another number. You're just another number to that person. Oh man, it's night and day. And I'm not, I'll own that. We see it. We see it happen time in and time again. So yeah, it's relevant to bring that up for sure.
All right. So, I was watching your TED talk and you talk about how when you went into prison, you started to pick up your behavior where you left off in terms of, trading cigarettes around and kind of picking up your old behavior inside.
Yeah.
What was it that really made you shift and start diving into this like personal development?
Yeah. If I may, Ben, I think there's a really good message here for the listeners, and I'll be brief on this. I was in county jail. I had a phone call with my dad, right? I tell him, I say, I told him, I remember this, like this, I told him, I don't know how much time I'm going to get. This is before we got the plea deal. Right. I said, but Pops, I really want to change my life. I want to turn this thing around. So all our listeners, right? Like you've set your intention. You want to lose the 10 pounds. You want to write the book. You want to launch the podcast. You want to start the business. You want to fix the marriage. You want to become a better parent. Like you set the intention, just like I did in county. I want to change my life. The problem is I ended up getting the 4 years. I go off to prison. I'm on my bus. I'm shipped out. I get to my camp. I had the intention of changing. You have the intention of making the transition, the change, the transformation. The problem is if you don't have a game plan to hold you accountable, if you don't have action steps, specific intentional action steps to follow, what's going to happen is you're going to revert back to what's comfortable. You're going to stay where it's comfortable. You're going to revert back to the means. And this change that you want, as awesome as it is that you set the intention, it's not going to happen.
Right.
And that's what happened with me. So I set the intention, I set the New Year's resolution, and I get to the camp and basically I didn't know how to achieve it. I didn't have any game plan in place. And so it wasn't long before I went to what was comfortable. I started selling and smoking cigarettes. I started talking about my past and glorifying it, wearing it as a badge of honor. And it was at the 6-month mark, I had gotten in a few fights. I was approached by a couple different gangs. Like it was definitely at that point where it was either you're diving in or you need to get out. Like it's one of the two. It was, and I woke up and I basically remember telling myself, Eric, if you don't change right here, right now, if you don't take a different course of action, you're going to come out the exact same way that you came in, if not worse, for 3.5 years from now. You're going to come, like nothing's going to change. And so it was that awakening moment that I said, all right, I got to do something different. And this is where my brother comes back in the picture. I reached out to Jeff and I said, hey man, I want to change, but I have no idea how. Right. I need some help. And he was my first coach. He is I to this day, I've always had a coach. From him to now, I'm 3 years out of prison, here in about, I think 4 days. I've always had a coach. He was my first one. And he's the one who helped me establish a game plan, get clear on the direction I was going, get my steps down and help me and hold me accountable to execute and take an action. All
right. So yeah. Let's talk about that early game plan and what was pivotal for you. I mean, obviously like the specificity of what to do, but you're diving into personal development now, trying to gain an understanding of how this all works, what had the most impactful early influence on you?
Yeah. So I think it was, well, we started with 2 books. So he sent me 2 books. He says, I want you to read these. And after you read these, we're going to put together like we're going to get on coaching calls, and we're going to get together a more like specific game plan for you. The 2 books were Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within, and Timothy Ferriss' The 4-Hour Work Week. So those were the 2 books that
Both
I
are
started.
Classics.
Yeah. I don't think it's any coincidence. Why would he send me the 4-Hour Work Week when I'm in prison? I have no idea. I'm not really automating anything. I'm not outsourcing anything, but I don't think it's any coincidence that those are the 2. It was a mindset book and a business book. Right. So yeah, that started the journey. Basically, I was exposed to this new way of thinking. I was exposed to goal setting. I was exposed to linguistic programming. I was exposed to reframing situations and belief patterns and value hierarchy and all these things that I had no idea existed. Again, going back to it, my mom taught me God. If there was a problem, you pray. My daddy taught me sports. Stay in sports, you're going to be okay. Like that was how I was. I didn't get taught any of these, high performance type habits or mindset. I just didn't get to, I wasn't taught that stuff growing up. So being exposed to this, I basically just became obsessed with it, man. I became obsessed with personal development, and I made it my mission every single day for the next 3.5 years. I was taking some sort of action step that was helping me get and create the person who I wanted to be. And it was basically as simple as that, man. I was averaging a book a week. I was, I was meditating in the dorm. Like people knew what time I was on. People knew what type of time I was doing, and it got respect after a while because I stood so strong in who I was and what I was about.
That's awesome. So I'm curious about your speaking. I'm sure naturally you're pretty, you seem like an extrovert to me, like, can capture people's attention pretty easily. But talk to me about how you developed your speaking career, because, you've got a TEDx under your belt, and you have a powerful presence. So talk about that a little bit. How did you develop that?
Yeah. So, I've always had the gift of gab. I think that I had a sales background before prison, both illegal and legal. And so I've always had the gift of gab with the stage presence, delivery, and just speaking from stage in prison. I'm sure you're familiar with Toastmasters.
Yep.
Okay. So they have an offshoot called the Gavel Club, and the Gavel Club throughout Florida prisons. And I don't know if this is for everywhere. I don't know. But in Florida prisons, they have what's called the Gavel Club, which is a branch off the Toastmasters. You still get all the accreditations. It's the same format. It's literally Toastmasters. You have a sponsor from the outside come in to deliver those classes. You get this, like it's official. It's called Gavel Club. And so I started with that, and I gave my first speech in prison, and I fell in love. And I was just like, yeah, I'm supposed to be speaking. I don't know why. And really, I remember thinking, I said to myself before I went, I said, Tony Robbins is doing it. All these people that you've been reading, they're speakers. So it's only natural if you're trying to be them and you're trying to recreate yourself and you're trying to portray this image and be this person, then you should speak too. And that was the selling factor for me to go off and try this thing out. And I basically fell in love, and I ended up actually getting published in a newspaper while I was in prison for a speech contest against 2 other prisons. And so that was kind of like it solidified, this is where you're supposed to be. To be in the media doing something positive in prison is a pretty cool win.
Yeah.
And we were doing gratitude 5K runs on the rec yard. We were holding awareness. We called it men's awareness events, where we were doing like positive talent shows. I would speak. We would bring other speakers on. We were organizing some really cool events that the compound wasn't putting on prior, right? Like this was new stuff that we were creating. Before I even knew what a mastermind was, I was running masterminds in the dorm. And I didn't know what a mastermind was. And I was taught Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, what a mastermind is. And I said, we need to create one of these. And we did. I remember the first one I did was John Maxwell, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And for each week we went and studied a new law, and we had about 5 of us in the group. And so really that was the foundation of my speaking. And then when I got out, I actually wasn't even connected with it when I first got out. I think I was just trying to survive and, get on my feet. And, but eventually about maybe 9-10 months out, I came back to it, and I started I told myself I want to build a speaking business and have a speaking career. And, so when I started to lean back into it, it didn't take long before some momentums, started, and, we got to where we are today.
Beautiful. And I love how much value you created while in prison. I imagine it was like a culture shock coming back out and trying to like figure out how to, I'm thinking about like when a deer is born and they got those like wobbly steps, like what were those wobbly steps like, and how did you decide to kind of create yourself outside?
Yeah. I think it was more so of like I had a huge shiny object syndrome. We started a buddy of mine. We started a car sales business. We bought 3 cars. We invested $10K into the auction. We got 3 cars. We got a great return on the first one, but then we realized like I hated it. Like he was passive, like he was partial. I hated it. It reminded me of the old life, dealing with some of the people we were dealing with. They were shady. Like it wasn't a good feeling. So we dissolved that business. I co-founded another company, a fitness company, with a buddy of mine, but we didn't see necessarily fully eye to eye on how to grow the business. And so after about 4 or 5 months, 6 months with him, I left that. And so it was trial and error. I think for me coming out, it was definitely like, I just wanted to be a success. For the last 4 years, I'd been focused on really living in and, seeing myself in this high regard. So to get out and then get denied from apartment complexes, to get turned down on sales positions, sales jobs that I was going after, all I could do was serve. I was a waiter at 2 different restaurants. Luckily I was able to get in a fine dining restaurant. That was a game changer, because that gave me some good income. But it was definitely trying to stabilize was a challenge. Sure. And trying to find what really spoke to me was a challenge for sure. And it took time to finally get to what felt right.
Yeah. And I think that's an important piece to highlight, is that even when you do all that work, that doesn't necessarily mean that the clouds are going to part and, this magic purpose is going to come from the clouds. You've got to keep at trying new things and having that trial and error.
Yeah, for sure.
So you then get some momentums with the speaking and you start coaching other folks. Was the coaching a natural offshoot of the speaking?
So I was coaching while I was in prison, and I actually told my brother, I said to him, hey man, I think when I get out, I'm going to become a therapist. And he was like, no, man, listen, you don't have to go back to school. I'll show you. He's a high performance coach. He's a successful entrepreneur. He has a service-based business, online business. And he had been in this world for years. And so he kind of exposed and showed me, when you get out, I'll give you the game. And he very much did. And so my first client literally reached out to me on Instagram. This was when I was just getting started doing my own thing. I had already left the fitness. So I was heavy into fitness. And I was just kind of deciding that, hey, I want to have a coaching business. I went to my first entrepreneurial event out in San Diego. It was Craig Ballantyne, the Perfect Life retreat. And that opened up my eyes. And I decided I want to be speaking as well. So I was really stepping into the idea of becoming an entrepreneur, and through the means of coaching and speaking. And so my first client, she reaches out to me and she says, man, your story is incredible. And this is why, this is so important. Like, your story is what makes you unique. Your story is what separates you from the other people in your space. And so if you're not sharing it, you're doing yourself and your business a disservice. She reached out to me based on my story. I didn't have a program. I didn't
Right.
have any. And she just said, it looks like you've created some awesome changes in your life. I feel like I'm stuck. I wasn't probing. I wasn't asking for her pain points. She was just giving them to me. And I said, yeah, I can help you with that. I can most definitely help you with that. And I brought her on. I think we agreed it was like a life coaching type deal with some fitness and some weight loss focus. And I brought her on, I think, for $160 a month for 4 calls a month. And which is insane, right? But like, it's at I don't know. I was happy with that. And I said, let's do it. She stayed with me for 6 months. She lost over 50 pounds, started her photography business, broke down some huge trauma and hidden, limiting beliefs that she had from growing up. And we created a lot of success. Like, we're still friends to this day. We haven't worked with each other for quite some time, but we're still friends, and it was so awesome. And so that's how the coaching started. And my first coaching business was a mix of fitness and life coaching, high performance coaching, before I pivoted to what I do now as a business coach. And it was just very exciting, very much aligned. And I think a big message here for the audience is really honing in on what your skills are, what you're passionate about, what you've overcome in your life, what you've dealt with in your life. And there's people out there who are dealing with what you've already got through,
Right.
what you've already been able to come out on the other side of. And it's recognizing that if you have a pull to help people and serve people, that this is how you do it. It can be done. And so at the start, for me, it was fitness and it was life coaching. It was mindset. That was what was heavy on my heart. And so, yeah, that's how it all started.
All right. Beautiful. I'm a student and practitioner of belief change. So curious, what do you find the most effective way to help someone change their limiting beliefs?
Yeah. I think one of the big things is debunking the limiting belief. It's recognizing. So I was on a call with a client this morning, and she had this story that she's, because of her age, because of the way she looks, she doesn't have a certain look that she can't have a level of success in the space. Right. And recognizing that if you just, there's chances are all of the time, your belief, chances are there's the exact opposite of your belief is out there to be true. And
Right.
I asked her, I said, I could show you people who are 20 years older than her, even uglier than her, if we really want to go down that road, because that was one of her hangups, is it was a vanity thing,
Right.
that are crushing it in their businesses because of the fact that they're solving a problem and they're adding value to the marketplace. And so I think one of the big things to do is recognize that it's debunking it. It's showing that what you think is true is actually subjective. It's not true. It is an opinion. It's something because of a story, because of something connected to it you've created. And then I think the second thing is we need to reframe it.
Right.
We need to reframe it to where it's hurting you. We need to reframe it to where now it's serving you, and it's creating a new belief that serves you and moves you forward in that way. So I think that's, there's a bunch of different ways we can go down and ways we can hammer out these things. But I think that's an approach that's really effective.
Yeah, no, I think that is an effective approach. And, I like that you highlight the stories that we tell ourselves that become default facts in our brains unless we have someone to kind of call us on our BS and like you said, show evidence to the contrary.
Yeah.
I often share with my clients that I used to be really self-conscious about getting on video as I was starting my business. I was like, oh, I'm monotone. My friends are going to make fun of me. I don't have anything important to say. But that was all just stories to keep me safe and small. But, we all get to grow and through getting over that, I've been able to impact people, and that's awesome.
There you go.
So curious, you start with the business around life coaching and health coaching. Why the decision to pivot into helping other folks with their coaching businesses?
Yeah, great question. And I think there's also a lesson in this, that, being really attentive to what your people need. what do your people need from you? What are your people asking you about? What are the questions they have? How can you help them? So this was a client of mine. It's funny because this was actually the guy who I started the fitness company with.
Okay.
So the guy I started the fitness company with, we branched off, we stayed friends. He had some huge limiting beliefs and some mindset stuff that was keeping him from growing this fitness business. And he came on as a client, not for the fitness side of things, but solely for the mindset, solely for the high performance habits. And so he came on as a client, and we changed the game. Like, this guy, the way he shows up now, it is incredible. He is now NLP certified. His whole format of his program, which is an amazing program on weight loss, is really centered around mindset and going from within first before we do the without, or the body,
Right.
so it's all centered around the very things that he was struggling with to begin with. So he started with me in this, and he fast forward. So he was, down, he was definitely way past where my first client was. He was months down the road. So fast forward another 6 months, I had been mentoring under some incredible coaches in the game. I had grown my business to 10K months. And he said, Erik, man, like, you're doing it. Like, you're having success. And he was still in his fitness business. I think at that point to date, it was about maybe like $1,500 in sales for almost the whole year. So he was selling very low end ticket packages. He only signed up a few clients, however many it was. He just didn't, an incredible coach, incredible package, incredible program. It just didn't know how to sell it. He didn't know how to market it. Didn't know how to sell it. And so he came to me, and this is listening and being attentive to what your people need.
Right.
He came to me and said, hey, Erik, can you help me get this thing off the ground? And so I said, all right, give me a week. I put together this program, right? I put together this program for him, and I came back and said, all right, I believe this is what you need. And it's going to cost X amount of dollars. If you want to work with me, it'll be 8 weeks. We'll get started right away. He said, yeah, let's do it. So he signed up with me, and literally, I think week 5, he had already brought in 10K in the business, because his audience, it was $10,500 was the exact amount. His audience was craving this offer, and he just didn't have it. He did not have an irresistible offer. He didn't have a flagship program. He had the drive, he had the passion, he had the education, but his audience was salivating. They were waiting. So when we came and we got his language in place, we got his marketing in place, we got his sales process in place, the water got turned on, and we're freaking jumping for joy. And we're like, yo. And then this is when I realized that, man, I really enjoyed that 8 weeks of coaching him.
Right.
And, whatever it was at that point where he had his launch, 6 weeks in. And he ended up bringing on a friend of his. She had never sold online. I got her from 0 to 5K, and it was solidified. I was like, okay, this works. I have something here. I love doing this. And this goes back to my sales background. I definitely enjoy the business aspects more, I think, than I did the mindset and the fitness.
Right.
And the way I look at it is, it's like that domino effect. If I can help this coach get their business off the ground, they're going to be able to help a multitude of people underneath them. So it's that, instead of giving the man the fish, it's showing the person how to fish. And that's what I found really lit me up when it comes to coaching. And so that's how the business coaching started. And I basically decided, all right, I'm pivoting. I'm going all in on this, and have now been able to create a multiple 6-figure coaching business. It's just, it's been incredible.
All right. That's inspiring, and love you following the breadcrumbs and
Yeah.
staying true to yourself. So what haven't we covered that you think is important for the audience to know?
Oh man. In regards to, let's get specific, in regards to business or in regards to life?
Let's go with life, in terms of, I know when I look at my story, fear, limiting beliefs were the things that held me back. So what do you have to say to fear and folks that are maybe putting off what they've been dreaming about for another day?
Yeah, it goes back. One of my mentors has instilled this in me, and it's been a game changer for how I show up in my business and in my life. Success loves speed, and action beats anxiety. And so it's really just embracing taking massively imperfect action in your
Hmm.
life. And I think a huge thing that I'm a big believer in and advocate of is calling yourself out on your bullshit. And it's saying and being okay with saying, hey, you need to make a tweak here, an adjustment here, a change here, and don't feel like if you do it, people are going to look down on you or think differently of you, or it's you recognizing where you can improve, where you're not doing that great, right? I just I got out, was sick for I got hit with COVID, and quarantined for 2 weeks. This week was my first week back where I've been basically 100%. I've slept in every day this week. And so this is me giving you guys, and this is like, I'm living it right now. I don't have to share that with you. There's a thought in my head that says, Erik, if you share that, you're going to look less than to this audience. I've slept in every day this week. I've hit the snooze button multiple times. I'm waking up between 8 and 9 instead of my 6, sometimes 9:30,
Right.
even 10. Not often on the 10, but like, you see, I'm like, because there's that hole. There's that, no, you can't share. It's too much. You need to. But the thing is we have to be able to own our stuff, and we have to be able to call ourselves out and say, hey, like, make an adjustment here. So next week, I've already have it in my head. There is no way I'm allowing myself to do another week of this. I was hard on myself on Wednesday, I think it was. And I said, Erik, just relax, man. You want to sleep in this week? You just got done with freaking this virus. Like, sleep in this week. It's not the end of the world. You're going to be okay. And I gave
Right.
myself that grace, but it's also saying, this isn't how I operate. And this isn't my standard of life and living, and for my business, for my personal self. So next week, I'm going to make the adjustment. I'm going to be on it. So I think a big message for no matter what stage of your business you're in, or you're at, or what stage of your life you're in, it is calling yourself out, and it's saying, I'm going to make the adjustments necessary to fix or to grow in this specific area. I think that's a huge, huge thing we have to be able to do.
100%. That's why I get to record a couple of my coaching modules next week that I didn't get to this week.
There you go. Love it. Love it.
Awesome. I love that success loves speed, and especially action beats anxiety, because I'm one of those folks that is naturally anxious. So that's a good mantra to embody. Cool. Well, Erik, really appreciate you sharing your story and your perspective with us. I think it's inspiring to be faced with such a kind of tough setback and going to prison, and being able to make the most of it, and appreciate your energy and your light that you're sharing with the world now.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to make your message, and get it out there. People want to hear it. And if anybody's listening, I'm sorry, if I know you're listening, but if you want to dive further, if you want to dive further in anything that we discussed today, just shoot me a message. Let's have a conversation. The biggest thing is another big message that I share with my audience is this social media, and it's incredible what we're able to do right now, like with your podcast, but it's using social media for the right reasons. And if it's not me, even if it's not me, if you want to start a business, if you want to launch a podcast, if you want to fix a problem, whether it's weight loss or mindset, or you need some accountability, if there's stuff that you want to change in your life, it's up to you to go out and talk to somebody who can help you. And it's amazing, because even if right now you're in a position where you don't have $1 to spare, there is people, including myself, who are more than willing to give free value and free information in that DM. It's out there. Are people out there, Ben, I believe you're one of them. I know I'm one of them. I'm not going to hold back on helping you just because I know you're not in a position to sign up for my program.
Right.
And so wherever you guys are at in your lives, if there's changes you want to make, you got to reach out to somebody. If you want to start an online coaching business, you reach out to me. I got you. And really, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. My hashtag that I use is Let's Grow Together. So, and no matter what capacity, I want to be growing with the people around me and the people I'm connected to. So yeah,
Yep.
man, I appreciate you having me on. A lot of fun.
Yeah. And I actually just did a video about this the other day, is that so many of the things that I've accomplished that I've been proud of have been done while I've been being coached by somebody, whether it
Yeah.
is launching a podcast, took my trip around the world, wrote a kid's book, like these things that we get to have accountability and guidance for to make them happen. So just want to reiterate that point.
Absolutely, man. You got to have a coach. I don't care who you are. You have to have a coach if you truly want to excel. That's my belief. You should always have a coach.
Amen. Amen. All right, man. Well, I'm going to be talking to you soon because we're in a mastermind together, but
Yes,
really appreciate your time, and thanks for sharing.
Absolutely. See you guys.
All right.